30 days after the, very what felt like historic signing of that MOU, it does seem as if things have escalated in a way that makes it feel very uncomfortable in region. What do you make of these developments and where we are at?
I think, obviously, we're on an escalatory military cycle. I think that because neither side has said we're outrightly scrapping the MOU sort of remains marginalized completely on the sidelines of these military operations, but it's still a document that's intact, and one can possibly see a time where either side can recommend going back to that, having decided that through the military means at the moment they're not getting where they want to. So I think on the diplomatic front, that document, although it's no use to anyone at the moment, can be, again, useful in the future because it is the blueprint for the way out of the current situation. But if you just look at the range of these strikes that are going on and break it down very, very simply here, both sides have a reason for hitting the targets that they hit. Iran says it hits US military bases and assets in the region. Clearly, last night, it hit a civilian facility in Kuwait that is a huge vulnerability for all Gulf countries, the desalination and power plants that go with them, that provide the AC, that provide the clean water that people drink. For most of the Gulf countries, these are absolutely essential and indispensable. So they're a massive pressure point. So Iran's ratcheted up to that level. If you look at what the United States is doing and understand how militaries work, they won't just be throwing their munitions around, we'll put some here, we'll put some there. They'll be thinking of what are we planning on doing next week? Where do we think we might be in a week's time or 2 weeks' time? So we'll have operations that shape us towards that. Number one, making sure that the Strait of Hormuz is going to be safe for the travel of vessels, which means taking out infrastructure, port facilities along the Strait of Hormuz, but it's going beyond that. It's trying to get to the infrastructure that links those areas around the Strait of Hormuz, particularly Bandar Abbas and some of the other ports along there, to deeper inside of Iran, as well as denying other ports, as well as targeting Bushehr, where there is an Iranian military airbase, which is about less than 1 minute's fighter jet flight from Karg Island, which again has been floated in the deep past as a possible target. That's where we seem to be.
Yeah, and Tehran issuing threats over the Gulf's oil lifeline at this point. It does seem as if it is, though, widening its target list. Syria, Iraq, Jordan. We already know that it's targeted Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, of course, and Oman. But I wonder what the message is here, do you think, from Iran in widening that lens, widening the scope of these targets outside of the Gulf?
Yeah, it's what's often called the escalatory ladder, isn't it? You target just a couple of Gulf countries in the beginning. It's been Kuwait, it was Bahrain. Now it's up to a former US base, Al Tanf, inside of Syria. That hadn't been struck before. It's interesting that Saudi Arabia hasn't been struck so far in this round, and Saudi Arabia normally considers itself at the top of that escalatory ladder. But Iran threatening to hit ports in the region, threatening these sort of highest value, most prized asset that's mostly been outside of the war in Saudi Arabia, Yambo port there, where the oil exports go through, where exports to the Red Sea and imports, frankly, as well, come into the country, come into the region, as well as Jebel Ali, a principal port in the Emirates, where you are. That would be a huge blow for the Emiratis if Iran was to continue to go after that Hamad port in Qatar. Just a number of ports in the region. And I think if we think back to those days at the beginning of April, just before the ceasefire came into play, I think it was the 8th or 9th of April, what Iran did on the last night of strikes was to strike sort of the deepest and send significant messages of what it was still capable of. So it sent the warning then, and now it's saying, we can do this. we're putting it on the table. So yes, we're in a cycle of escalation.